We often mistake silence for loneliness or disconnection, but in reality, silence can be one of the most intelligent forms of self-preservation. In today's world, where social media rewards instant updates and constant access, choosing to stay silent about your personal life is an act of strength. It's not about cutting yourself off from people. It's about consciously deciding who has earned the right to your thoughts, your feelings, and your experiences. Silence becomes a protective layer around your energy. It gives you the space to process your emotions without interruption, reflect on your intentions without outside influence, and grow in a way that's authentic, not performative. Think about how often we've shared something vulnerable only to be met with judgment, envy, or even mockery. That reaction doesn't necessarily mean the other person is malicious. It just means they may not have the capacity to hold your truth with care. And that's why silence matters. Silence allows you to develop emotional clarity before involving anyone else. It lets you feel something fully without the noise of opinions clouding your insight. You don't have to narrate every chapter of your life while you're still writing it. There's deep power in keeping your experiences sacred and private until you're ready, or perhaps never sharing them at all. You're not isolating yourself by choosing silence. You're building a boundary between your soul and the noise of the world. You're telling yourself, I am worth protecting. Silence also teaches you how to trust yourself more. When you're not constantly seeking reactions or advice, you begin to value your own wisdom. You start developing internal validation rather than waiting for someone to tell you you're on the right path. You lean into your intuition. You become a quieter, more grounded version of yourself, a version that doesn't need to be seen or heard all the time to feel real. It's natural to want to share, especially when you're excited, when you're hurting, or when you feel proud of how far you've come. But just because you feel something deeply doesn't mean the world needs to know about it. One of the greatest acts of self-respect is learning to be selective with your emotional intimacy. Your life is not a public theater, and not everyone you meet is entitled to a front row seat. So many people give access to their lives based on familiarity just because someone is family, a childhood friend, or even a longtime coworker. But emotional access isn't a reward for time served. It should be given based on emotional safety, loyalty, trustworthiness, and consistency. Sharing your life with someone should feel safe, not obligatory. Yet often we feel guilted into letting people in because we assume we owe them something. But you don't. Your story, your struggles, your growth, they are not community property. When you allow people into the inner workings of your life too quickly, you open yourself up to the risk of misunderstanding, misjudgment, and misuse. Some people don't listen to support, they listen to compare. Others will pretend to celebrate you, but quietly resent your progress. And then there are those who simply don't have the emotional maturity to handle the weight of your truth. Giving them access only leads to disappointment, confusion, or worse, self-doubt. Creating boundaries around who you share your life with isn't cold or closed off. It's intentional. It means you understand the value of your story. It means you've reached a level of maturity where you no longer confuse closeness with access. Just because someone is curious about your life doesn't mean they should be informed. Just because someone asks doesn't mean you need to answer. The people who deserve to know your journey are the ones who show up consistently, who protect your name when you're not in the room, who listen without trying to fix or judge you. And those people are rare, which is why your inner circle should be small and your standards high. There's an invisible cost to speaking about your plans and dreams too early, one that most people don't realize until the energy is already gone. The truth is, every time you talk about something before it's ready to be seen by the world, you're releasing energy that should have been reserved for building, not boasting. There is a psychological effect called the social reality illusion, which shows that when we talk about our goals publicly, our brain can start to feel as though we've already accomplished something. That illusion creates a false sense of satisfaction, which often kills our drive to actually do the work. This isn't about being secretive out of fear. It's about being strategic. Your dreams are still fragile when they are new. Like seeds in soil, they require protection from outside forces while they take root. When you share too early, you expose those ideas to criticism, skepticism, and external expectations. Suddenly, the thing you were excited about becomes something you have to defend or explain, and that pressure can smother your motivation. What started as passion can quickly feel like performance. In addition, the more people you involve in the early stages of your journey, the more you unconsciously begin to shape your process around their reactions. If they show doubt, you hesitate. If they're overly excited, you may feel pressured to rush. Either way, your direction is no longer fully your own. It becomes shaped by how others perceive it. That shift, subtle as it may be, can steer you away from authenticity. Your vision becomes diluted by the noise of too many voices, and before you realize it, your momentum is gone. There's also an energetic element to all of this. Your ideas carry a sacred charge when they're still inside you, pure, undisturbed, connected only to your purpose. Once spoken aloud, especially to the wrong people, that charge dissipates. Some people will unintentionally project their own fears, limits, or failures onto your vision. And those projections, if you're not careful, can settle into your own mindset like seeds of doubt. That's why some of the most successful people are often the quietest during the build. They understand that talking is easy, but execution is everything. They protect their energy like currency, spending it only where it generates real return. There's a common misconception that being open means being vulnerable. But these two concepts are worlds apart. In today's hyper-connected culture, where social media rewards exposure and rawness, people often confuse oversharing with emotional authenticity. But true vulnerability is not about telling everyone everything. It's about discernment, intentionality, and emotional courage shared within the safety of trust. Oversharing is often reactive. It's the impulse to spill personal details without context, usually in the hope of feeling seen, heard, or validated. It can stem from anxiety, discomfort with silence, or even a subconscious need to control how others perceive us. People may reveal too much too soon in conversations, post unfiltered emotions online, or expose deeply personal struggles to strangers, mistaking it all for being real. But what's really happening is a kind of emotional flooding that lacks boundaries. It doesn't invite connection, it overwhelms or repels it. Vulnerability, on the other hand, is rooted in emotional maturity. It requires careful thought about who you're sharing with, why you're sharing, and what the emotional cost might be. According to Brené Brown, vulnerability is not about weakness or oversharing. It's about showing up authentically with courage and clarity. It's when you share something meaningful, not to get attention, but because you trust the other person to hold it with care. Vulnerability says, I've evaluated this moment, and I believe sharing this part of me with you is safe, constructive, and necessary. Oversharing says, I feel uncomfortable, and I need to get this out to feel temporarily better, even if it costs me peace later. Oversharing often comes without an invitation. It's unfiltered, boundaryless, and usually not well received. It can make others uncomfortable, create confusion, or leave you feeling exposed and vulnerable in ways that weren't empowering. Vulnerability, by contrast, is shared in context, where there is emotional safety, mutual respect, and a sense of trust. It's selective, it's meaningful. It builds connection rather than fractures it. When we confuse the two, we rob vulnerability of its power. We start broadcasting our pain instead of healing it. We start confusing attention with intimacy. And in the end, we may feel even more isolated than before because what we needed wasn't to be heard by many, but to be understood by one. One of the most painful truths we encounter in life is this: most people don't see you as you are. They see you through the lens of their own limitations, fears, and unresolved issues. When you open up about what you're going through, what you're planning, or even what you're dreaming of, you expose those precious parts of your life to interpretations that may have nothing to do with your reality. And this is where the quiet danger lies. The very people you expect to support or uplift you may unintentionally shrink you with their inability to understand you. People judge what they don't understand because unfamiliarity makes them uncomfortable. When someone is deeply rooted in their own fear or insecurity, your ambition feels threatening. Your healing reminds them of the work they haven't done. Your confidence mirrors the areas where they feel small. And so they project. They question your motives. They warn you not to take risks. They label you as selfish, naive, unrealistic, or too much. But what they're really doing is revealing their own limits, not yours. This is especially true when your growth journey doesn't follow traditional paths or societal norms. When you start stepping outside of the narrative others have written for you, maybe by setting boundaries, changing careers, or leaving toxic relationships, or even just choosing peace over chaos, it disturbs the comfort zones of those still living inside those patterns. Suddenly, your transformation feels like rebellion, and people don't like rebellion unless it benefits them. So they judge, they minimize, they invalidate. And if you aren't solid in your self-awareness, you might start to believe them. You also have to understand that not everyone has the emotional depth or maturity to receive your story without trying to fix it, compare it, or criticize it. Some people will hear your pain and immediately talk about their own. Others will hear your goals and try to top them with theirs. And some will listen only to find flaws or weaknesses they can later use as ammunition. This doesn't necessarily make them evil. It just means they aren't equipped to meet you where you are. Expecting understanding from the emotionally unavailable is like trying to draw water from an empty well. And this is why silence is powerful. When you withhold your process, your plans, or your personal truths from people who lack the capacity to understand them, you're not being secretive, you're being wise. You're creating space between your growth and their judgment. You're choosing to honor your evolution without requiring anyone else's approval, permission, or comprehension. You're making peace with the fact that not everyone is meant to walk alongside you in every season of your life. In a world that glorifies business, noise, and constant connection, peace has become one of the rarest and most valuable forms of wealth. It's not found in applause, attention, or validation. It's found in stillness, solitude, and self-awareness. Yet many people trade their peace every day without realizing it. They give away their energy by explaining themselves, defending their choices, reacting to negativity, and oversharing with people who don't genuinely care. And each time they do, a small piece of inner calm gets chipped away. There's an unmatched power in learning to protect your peace with silence. Silence isn't passive, it's intentional. It's a boundary. It's a form of emotional self-defense. When you choose not to engage, not to explain, not to reveal too much, you're not being weak or secretive. You're safeguarding the mental and emotional clarity you've worked hard to build. You're honoring the stillness that allows you to hear your own voice in a world that constantly tries to drown it out. Peace doesn't always come from avoiding chaos. Sometimes it comes from refusing to invite chaos into your inner world. That means you stop telling people things they haven't earned the right to know. You stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop oversharing with people who only listen to judge, gossip, or compete. Instead, you start choosing silence as your shield. You start walking away without explaining. You start breathing instead of reacting. You start letting your energy speak for itself rather than constantly putting your emotions into words for others to digest. Your peace is sacred because it is the foundation for clear thinking, emotional stability, and spiritual alignment. When your mind is quiet, your decisions become sharper. When your heart is calm, your boundaries become clearer. When your soul is undisturbed, your creativity flows freely. Silence is the environment where peace can thrive, but peace is the fruit that silence protects. You don't owe access to your inner world to people who don't know how to treat it gently. You don't need to narrate your journey while you're still walking it. You don't have to explain your healing to people who benefited from your brokenness.